Today I'll talk about the show, Cupid's Chocolate. Jane Howie is a normal high school student who doesn't have many friends. He spends most of his days in class, by himself daydreaming. He likes it that no one pays attention to him and is actually happy to have a quiet life. This all changes when one day Z is on. The most beautiful girl in school comes up to Jane during class. She tells him that she is pregnant with their child and they should get married. Jan is shocked by this as they have never spoken before. All of his classmates get angry at him and chasing around the school. Jane has to hide to avoid them, but Zaya always manages to find him. She really thinks that she's 3 months pregnant. Jane tries to explain that this is not possible, but she doesn't listen. Later, while Jane hides in the school bathroom, the girls from gym class also express their love for him. Jane realizes that he's now become a harem can, and he doesn't know why. Several other beautiful girls find him and tell him that they are in love with him. He doesn't know any on them. Zia brings Jane home to her giant mansion where her security guards chase him around because she tells them that he got her pregnant. Jane finds evidence that Zaya just wants to spend time with her father and eat lunch. After 2 days of spending time together, her father comes and tries to get RTO Jang with his security guards. Jang then explains that he should have lunch with his daughter and not be so cruel. Z's father sees the error of his ways and promises to make it up to his. It is then revealed that a magical being called Matata was actually behind everyone falling in love with Jang. Zaya made a wish and Matata granted her that wish. Jang thinks that his life will now finally be normal again, but he realizes that still every girl in school wants him, including Zia. Suddenly during class, his scary childhood friend shows up and kisses Jane. Her name is Zuong, and during their childhood, she always thought of Jang as her rival until she fell in love with him. Zia sees this and gets jealous, so now the girls will have to fight over who really doesn't want to be involved and just wants peace. Shumon Tang also falls in love with Jay, and she loves doing cosplay. Jay and Shumon have a moment where she expresses her feelings, and Zia notices this. Zia, wanting to get closer to Jang, thinks that he also likes cosplay. One day, Zia comes up with an idea that during the next cosplay competition, Jang should dress up like a cat and go there. Jang dresses up as a female cat, even if he hates the Xuan also dresses up as this is very important to her, but girls from school bully our passion towards cosplay. Eventually, Jane goes on stage in his cat cosplay and tells Xuan that she must be proud of her passion for cosplay. As Sheen falls off the upper stage, but with the help of Matata, Jay manages to catch her. In the meantime, Zuli hears the girls who bullied Xuan and she attack. Jane goes to visit his teacher, Jiran, but when he gets there, she is wearing a reveal in blue dress that makes everything awkward. She has also developed feelings towards Jang and tries to seduce him, but gets out of there. Jang has flashbacks of his childhood and Xuan. They were always competing with each other and fighting in the present. He sees Xuan crying alone in the rain. He comes to hold her, and she reveals that her ex-boyfriend has returned and Jane tells her that he will be there for her. The following day of school, Jane talks to Matata that Shun's ex-boyfriend is the reason she's so aggressive now. Suddenly, 2 small children jump on Jane and call him daddy. He's confused. And then another female student arrives to make his life even more complicated. The girl introduces herself as Lin Yuan, and she thinks that her 2 children are from her relationship with Jang. He goes into panic and almost passes out. He sends Lin and her kids away and confronts Matata about She explains that a Cupid's contract is someone's wish that if not fulfilled, will manifest itself in a strange way so that children are real. Jane cannot believe that this happened, and he wants to figure out what Lin Yu and wish for it goes to talk to her and tries to explain that her kid are at least 7 years old and Jang and Lin are barely 20. They cannot be their kids. Meanwhile, Zia is preparing a date for her and Jang, and they go to an amusement park. Then also shows up there with her kids and many misunderstandings. Jang is shocked to see how beautiful Zaya really is, and he's even more confused when she starts to flirt with him. He thought that since her wish was granted that she will have no more feelings towards him, but it seems that she really likes him. A photographer tries to take their picture, but both of them are very nervous. Jang has to go take care of Lin and Zed, confronted by Chuan. Zia pretends like she isn't on a date with Jane. Meanwhile, Jane decides to try to be a responsible father for his new magically created. He and Lin have some conflict as he's not allowed to meet her mother. Jang spends some time with her and the kids, and they even take a family photo at the end of the day. Jang figures out that he has to do something about this entire harem situation. Jang goes to see his old friend at the police station. He needs to find a phone number to call any member of Lin's family. He has found out that Lin's father left her many years ago and she must miss him. They manage to find several phone numbers, but Jane doesn't know which one is the correct. Jane later returns home and his parents tell him that he will have to become a man tonight. Suddenly cars pull up to their apartment building and Zuli shows up and forcibly takes Jane to his room. She wants to consummate their marriage, but Jane manages to escape her grasp. She stays the night in Staten Island. Harem sees Jane, but he refuses to sleep with her the following day. Jane manages to contact Lynn's father and tells him about his grandchildren. Later, he meets with Lynn and the kids, and they go for a walk. Just before Lynn crosses a street, a giant truck is seen racing toward. Lynn's father gets a message that she has ended up in the hospital. So if he races to see his daughter after so long. Meanwhile, Zia also gets a shocking call as well as Schwan. They all make their way to the hospital. Finally, Lynn's father arrives thinking that his daughter is in critical condition, but he finds her in a hallway totally fine. The two have a tearful reunion and it's revealed that when the truck almost hit, Lynn Jane jumped in and pushed her out of the truck, then him, and he's currently in the hospital bed while unconscious. Jane meets his two children who inform him that the magic will soon end and they have to leave. They show him their coloring book of their memories, and then they disappear forever. Jane wakes up in a hospital bed and reunites with his friends for the next couple of days. He has to recover and rivalry starts amongst the girls. Zuli thinks belongs to her Budzak and Shu and that all start to argue with each other. Jang and Matata get transported inside another magical world. There they meet Sandy. A magic girl who also likes Jang. Is revealed that Sandy is actually in a coma, lying in a hospital bed, but her spirit has created a new imaginative world. Jang travels with her through this world and has spent some time together. After Jan returns to the real world, he thinks that maybe Sandy doesn't want to wake up and just wants to be in the magical. He later decides to help her and gets her to finally wake up from her long coma back to the real world. Jane then realizes that Sandy has an agent who is basically in charge of her life. To finally set Sandy free, Jane blackmails this agent into letting her make her own decisions. Sandy has finally woken up and reports are all around the hospital. Jane manages to sneak into her hospital room and the two hug. Sandy then goes on a special trip all around the world with Matata A2. Talk about Jan and how Mac. Meanwhile, Jen goes on a special date with Zaya. They go shopping for lingerie, which causes both of them to blush. Later, Sandy meets her old friend who would trade her, and they decide to try to repair their friendship. Matata is confronted by the mysterious chocolate maker, creates the Cupid chocolate she uses in her spells. He wants to punish her for breaking the rules of Cupid magic, but decides to spare her while on their date. Say, and Jane run into a police officer and Jane gets sad. His father was a police officer and he left in a long time. Jang and Zia talked together in the park and Jang finally tells her his life story. When he was really young, his parents had no time for him and his police officer father didn't seem to care. One day, criminals came inside Jane's house and he called the police, but his father did not come. Since that day, Jane has lived alone and his teacher Jaran is the only one who sometimes cares for him. Zaya gets emotional and she tells Jan that she wants to help him achieve his dreams, be with him from a distance. Matata watches all of this, and she gets emotional. Meitie flies away and remembers all of her moments with Jane and realizes that she also has feelings for him. A camping trip is happening in the high school and Zia wants to be paired up with Jangs, so she gets him to sign a special marked paper so they end up in the same group. This was a plan formed by Zia and Shuman. What they don't know is that Lynn also had the same plan, so the three of them end up in the same group as Jane. The camping trip arrives and Jane carries all of their bags. They have fun, but suddenly Zuli shows up from her helicopter. She attacks the girls and wants to keep them away from during the battle and Shu and fall into the river, and Jang has to save them. Meanwhile, Lin and Zuli get lost and while trying to find their friends, Lin tells Zuli that Jang will never forgive her if she keeps hurting his friends. At the end of the day, all of them are reunited and Zuli begs Jang to never leave her the following day at their campsite. Zuli tries to once again kiss Jen, but she's interrupted by Chuan, who starts to argue with her. They still manage to have a good time on the trip and after they return, Zuli's ex-boyfriend arrives in. And Jane talk about him, and he reveals that this boy actually made Zuli unstable like she is today. Through the years, she was pretty calm and normal, but this boy wanted to embarrass her during a New Year's party, so she lost her mind. Since then, she has been angry and crazy. Jang also promises Z that he doesn't have feelings for Zuli and more. Zuli is eventually kidnapped by her psychotic ex-boyfriend who takes her to an abandoned warehouse. Jen arrives at the warehouse, but he knows that it will be D. He tells Matata to film the whole situation so they have evidence. Matata is very worried that he will get hurt. Jang jumps into the warehouse and confronts the crazy ex-boyfriend and his thugs. He tries to fight them off, but he gets beaten up. One of the gang members tries to hit Jang with a chair, but Zuli jumps in and takes the damage. She then once more protects Jang. Zuli remembers their friendship and rivalry over the years. As she starts to bleed out, the police come and Zuli is taken to the hospital. She manages to recover and Jang. He tells her that from now on he will always protect her. All the girls also arrive to visit Zuli, but they get angry when she once again tries to take Jing all for herself. Suddenly another girl shows up. Her name is Ling Xiaoto, and she is Jan's cousin, who also loves him. She starts to make fun of the girls and sees them all this competition. Sandy also shows up, but Ling is such a big fan of her. She can't be angry later. It is revealed that Ling took care of Jan when he was alone, but she has to go back to America. Before she flies off, Jang tells her that he's okay now and has friends. She doesn't have to worry about him. Matata tells Jang that their adventures are not yet over. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe if you enjoyed this video.